All right, welcome back to another video. This video is for you if you are a full-time physical therapist or healthcare provider and you are currently looking for a way to transition out of working for somebody else full-time and into working for yourself full-time, but you're not exactly sure what that could look like and what steps you should take. So if that sounds like you, this is the video to watch. So I get asked a lot about how to transition from point A, which is working for somebody else, to point B, working for yourself, and what that transition looks like. And what I have noticed about it is that a lot of times we think we have to go directly from point A to point B, and there's no in between and no transition time. And sometimes when it comes to starting your own practice, that's what works best for some people, is to make that big of a jump and just go all in and go for it. But what I want to point out in this video is what I did and what another option could be for you if you are somebody who is wanting to take like smaller steps towards getting where you want to go and working for yourself. So when I first started my practice back in 2019, I was working per diem for home health agencies. But if we rewind a little bit further back, I first started my career as an outpatient orthopedic general clinic, physical therapy clinic, PT. I was working 9 to 5 plus every week and seeing tons and tons and tons of patients. And it got very overwhelming. It quickly was just not the right fit, like just not the way that I wanted to practice at all. I was unhappy. I was just starting to look into other options. If this is you, like if you're currently working full time and you're not happy with the way things are going, and you're not sure what else to do, the first thing that I would recommend doing probably is to talk to your supervisor or your clinic director, your rehab director about how you're feeling about things and if there are any changes that can be made to make you feel more comfortable and more satisfied with your position there. I recommend that because I think, overall, like if you're in a better place mentally, whether you're moving towards working for yourself, or you are staying there at that job, either way, it's going to help you a lot, just like stress wise and overall like satisfaction wise. So the first thing to do is talk to your supervisor about how things are going and like what you're unhappy with, and work together to brainstorm about like what could possibly be done to make you feel a little bit better. And that's what I did with my supervisor at the time at our clinic. I was looking into other things. I had heard about home health. I was looking into like doing wellness coaching, and I remember like talking to my supervisor about like all the different interests that I had and how like ultimately I felt like where I was working at the time was just not going to help me like fulfill what I was looking for professionally or personally, mainly with my mental health and everything. Unfortunately, after kind of like brainstorming and having a dialogue with my supervisor, came to the conclusion that like it probably wasn't going to be the best fit anymore. But I'm still really glad that I had that conversation, because then at least I knew I tried to do everything that I could to make it so that I was more comfortable and happy working there. And it also helped to just like give me more evidence that it wasn't going to be a good long-term fit. That was kind of like my part one, or I guess like point A, was working at a clinic full time. To give you a little bit of a visual, this is the route that we are going to be going down and talking about in this video. And what I typically recommend for most people getting into their own business, if you're nervous about making like a really big leap forward, these 4 steps I think can be a little bit helpful. By all means, if you're ready for it, you can go full time to working in your business only. And like as a business coach, I've worked with plenty of people who have done that. So we're talking about, my experience when I was working full time. That's, point A, or like in this diagram here, it's the very bottom step is working full time. And then the next step up from that is working part-time. I like to put this in here just because it might be an option when you do talk to your supervisor about what can be done to make you a happier employee at your job. I don't see this being successful with very many PTs at their companies who are working full time. Just from like the past few years of doing business coaching, I always suggest to the clinician to check with your supervisor about whether part-time is an option. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it isn't. But I like to throw it on there just in case. And like this was something that I did talk to my supervisor about, was if I was working 40 hours a week and it felt like it was way too much, would it be possible to drop down to somewhere between like 30 and 35 hours a week? And unfortunately, it was not an option for me, but it is an option at some places. If that's something that you feel like could help and also help give you the time that you need to work on starting your own practice, might be something to look into. That all being said, this might be a good like miniature step here. But I think that for most people who are wanting to start their own business, what I've seen work the best is to actually go from full-time just up to per diem. So this could be, I did home health. My husband works per diem in acute care, and I'm sure that there are other per diem positions. I've worked with people who have gotten per diem positions at outpatient clinics as well. So I think it just depends on the availability near where you live. But for most people who are really wanting to start their own thing, going from full-time to per diem can help give you a lot more of the flexibility that you need in order to put in the hours to starting and growing your own practice. Versus part-time, it's a little bit more concrete, like the hours that you need to be working. With per diem, it can be just a little bit more flexible. I worked at the outpatient clinic for full-time. I spoke with my supervisor and we just like talked through different options and kind of came to the conclusion that it wasn't really going to be a good fit for me moving forward. Before I turn in my notice, I started interviewing with different home health agencies around the area. I did interviews and did my paperwork to get signed up as a contractor for the different home health agencies. And then I put in my notice at the company. I did do 30-day notice, which was a little bit difficult at the time, I remember, because I was really just like ready to move on. But at the same time, knowing that there was an end in sight, I was going to be closing that chapter, even though it was going to take a little bit longer than I wanted it to. It was good. And so like that's something that I really suggest for you as well is, if you are serious about starting your own practice, you need to set an end date. I think it is a good idea, if you really are worried about income and financial stability as you're making this transition, to secure the per diem positions before you put in your notice. For some people that's possible, for some people it's not. But either way, we have to set an end date so that you have a plan in mind or like a day in mind by which you have to take action in order to move forward. And so having this like 30 days notice, it showed me where my like next checkpoint was going to be. And I knew I was going to have a lot more time to start working on my own business then. And then the next stop on this train is going from working per diem to working in your business only. And something that is really nice about working per diem is that for most of the positions that I've had, and I know like for where my husband works and just from other clinicians talking to me about what their options are, you can pick and choose how much work you want to take on. So when you are transitioning from full-time to business only, again, like the big like point A and point B, instead of dropping down to like a part-time income right away, you might decide to take on more shifts or more patients in a per diem role right when you like finish your full-time job, so that you still have like a little bit of time, but you're still bringing in like more income at the beginning of the transition. And then over time, as you start to put more work into your business, you can start to decrease the shifts or the patients that you're seeing per diem, continue that trend over time until you are mainly working just in your business, and maybe you are keeping like a couple shifts a month or a couple of home health patients every week, something like that. So it becomes a little bit of a mix between working in your business and having the per diem gigs on the side. And I know with the different agencies that I worked with, when I told them that I was going to discontinue working with patients with them because I was going to be doing my own thing, all of them were more than happy to have me back, like if I ever changed my mind at any point. I think like as long as you have like a good relationship with all of the employers so far, most companies are going to be totally okay with you coming back if you do change your mind. So I want to point that out because I know that it can be scary to leave a job and leave a position and move on to the next chapter, because it almost feels like, okay, well, once I stop this, then, like what happens next? What if something crazy happens or whatever, and I've already quit this job? Out of all the different employers that I have worked for, they have all told me when I quit, we'll be happy to have you back if you want. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think like as we're, getting closer to this point B of working in your business only, you can just start to slowly decrease your per diem shifts over time. And if you are really like plugging along with your business, sometimes per diem like companies or positions will also let you take like an extended pause for like weeks or like a couple of months or whatever, if you wanted to take that like pause time to really go in on your business, but then still have a little bit of a safety net later on for if anything changes. Overall, in my story, that's basically how it went. Like the few different stepstones that I had, I was working full time in outpatient. I had to figure something out to make it work, and it ended up just not being the right fit. I secured home health per diem positions and put in my notice at the outpatient clinic. From there, I ended up working, I believe, most of 2019 in home health, probably the better part of 7, 8, 9 months. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. Towards the tail end of that is when I actually started my practice. I spent a few months in home health just trying to figure out like what I really wanted to do at all with my career. And that's when I ended up like coming across this idea of, like starting my own practice and what that might look like. So when I started my practice towards the end of 2019, I did so while still working per diem home health. And that was super helpful for me because I did have more financial stability as I was starting my business. And then because it is per diem, and especially with home health, you're scheduling your patients, you're able to schedule around if I'm seeing patients on my own mobile or online or in the gym or what have you. So the flexibility was super nice between like my business, home health. And then as my business took off, then I ended up talking to the home health agencies and letting them know that I was going to be discontinuing with home health clients and continuing with my own practice. And typically what I've heard, and I believe this is what I did as well, is for all of the patients that I did have in home health at the time, I finished up their plans of care, but didn't take on any new home health clients. And that's how I started to transition full-time for somebody else to full-time for myself. So overall, I hope this helps to see a little bit more information on what the transition could look like. This is what I usually recommend for most people is full-time, part-time, per diem, and then business only. Of course, there might be like different combinations of these that'll work best for you, but overall, I just want you to know that there are stepping stones that you can take to go from working full-time as a PT or a healthcare provider for somebody else to working full-time for yourself. And you don't have to jump in 100% right at the beginning unless you want to. And overall, what I really want you to take away from this video is that if you are serious about starting your own practice and working for yourself, you're going to have to start to take action to help put yourself in an environment that's conducive to you starting and running a business. You're going to have to make decisions on what dates things need to happen by, what is going to take to get there, and you're going to have to take action moving forward. Because if you never make these decisions to go from full-time to part-time or part-time to per diem or per diem to your business only, it's going to be really difficult for your business to grow. And you'll probably always feel like you are never ready to start to transition from step to step to step. Knowing that you're never going to feel like you're ready, I hope that in some way helps to encourage you to just make the decision, because you're going to figure it out as you go. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great to see yourself grow in a bunch of really cool and interesting ways. If you do need help with starting your practice, I do want to put out there that there are a lot of therapists that I work with who actually start like the kind of like groundwork for starting their practice while they are still working full time. And we get things going with that, just paperwork wise, especially with starting a business entity, learning how to do documentation on your own, how to take payment, how to see private clients and how that works. So if you are somebody where you are looking for that kind of instruction, I'd highly recommend you check out our mini course called Therapy Business Basics. And there should be a link for it down in the description. It is a 4-part walkthrough of how to set all of that stuff up. So a lot of people that I've worked with, they will do this in their free time on the weekends and finish up the course. And as little as a couple of weeks, you can have all of that groundwork set up so you are ready to start seeing patients. If you have any questions on this transition stuff, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.